Thompson, Jeffrey Lee, Keisha Acup, and I apologize. Please introduce yourselves.
Yeah, my name is Edward.
And I'm Shannon.
Excellent. We are going to be talking about indie authors. And I'm going to quickly actually play this video here.
The Multiverse Fundraiser is partnering with Comic Books for Kids to raise money for their cause. Their mission is to provide comic books to children in hospitals and cancer centers across the United States, Canada, and the UK. We believe in the importance of providing stories that promote hope and bravery to kids who are facing things that are scarier than any supervillain. And we truly believe in this cause. To donate, you can either go to our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/The Multiverse Fundraiser or directly to comicbooksforkids.org.
All right. And all right, who wants to start us off with the whole let's start with Hollis. Hollis, let me know, give us an idea of what you've written and how you started off being an author.
Thanks, Willow. Put me on the spot.
That's what I do.
Willow is really good at that.
I appreciate it. So, yeah, I actually have been more of a playwright through my career. That's been my main avenue of production. I've been a drama kid forever, and even in college as an undergrad, I majored in English and minored in drama. So that has kind of been my thing. It wasn't until really a lot more recently that I started to actually do like prose fiction in a book format. So I am very, very new to that. As a matter of fact, the book that I have out right now is my first just fiction book that I've ever done. I have another one that's almost finished now, but this was the first one that I've ever just done. And again, I don't know quite why. Yep, there it is. The awesome cover art by Caitlin Higginbotham, by the way. She did an amazing job on that cover. Yep, Vivian. If you can't guess by the cover, it is a vampire novella. And it was an interesting thing because it started a long time ago, actually. I got the basic idea for it in grad school, where against my will, I was being forced to read a bunch of Gothic literature because of my fellow grad student, AJ Marcus, now Professor Marcus. He kind of dragged me into this project that we were doing for the department, where we were trying to create this database of Gothic villains. And if any of you knew me, Gothic literature was definitely not my thing. But I was being forced to read all this stuff, including Dracula by Bram Stoker and all this different stuff. And one of the things that I came across was a pre-Dracula novella called Carmilla, which was one of like the OG vampire novels back in the day. And I read it and I thought to myself, wow, this is such a cool concept for a story. And such a horrible execution. I liked the setup that they had, which was basically that you had two women who had been childhood best friends as little girls. And then they kind of parted ways. One of them moved off. And then as adults, they come back and they reconnect. And it becomes obvious to the protagonist as time goes on that her former bestie is now a vampire that is out to get her. And I thought that is such a cool setup for a story. But then I thought the author just totally screwed it up and just didn't do anything interesting with such a great premise. And so being the arrogant grad student that I was like, you know what? I think I could do better. And so I started my own Carmilla-inspired story that I thought could be better done. And I got through like the first couple pages in this burst of inspiration, and then it just lagged out, and I never touched it again for the rest of grad school. And then it just kept going. And a couple of years ago, I was thinking about that story again. And then another kind of bolt of inspiration happened of where I could rework some things and turn it into something worthwhile. And then, kind of in like a fever rush for a week, I just wrote the first draft out and gave it to some beta readers and gave it to then eventually Crayle McDonald, who is my editor for fiction. Definitely the best, by the way. If you're looking for an editor, Crayle is really amazing. And then I've obviously never published a book before. And so Crayle and Kelly, the other Phoenix sister, have a service that they were wanting to start of walking authors through the self-publishing journey. And I was basically their guinea pig in the journey with self-publishing. And then here we are. Finally, Vivian is out for everybody to read if you are into that kind of thing.
And where can we find it?
You can find it basically anywhere books are sold online.
Okay.
So like barnesandnoble.com, booksamillion.com, even Thrift Books, I noticed has it. So literally like anywhere you want to go, you can pick it up. Or if for whatever reason you're in the local Texarkana area, which is where I am out of locally, there's a local independent bookstore and cafe called The Stained Page, and they currently carry copies of it there as well.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Jeffrey, please introduce yourself and tell us what you've written.
Yeah, my name is Jeffrey. So the two books that I've published are parts 1 and 2 of a duology, the Empire of Strings duology. My story of becoming a writer isn't anywhere near as interesting as Hollis's.
Oh, boo! Not true. Not true.
I grew up watching Star Wars was my favorite thing growing up, and I read a ton of the like old Star Wars expanded universe books that were out like throughout middle school and high school. That was like my thing. That's all I read was those and Percy Jackson. Like those are the two series that I read books from. Throughout that time, that just inspired the creativity in me, and I've always had stories in my head, and I wanted to tell. But it wasn't until my first job working at a local store here where I made good friends with a coworker there that after work we would get together at the nearby McDonald's and spend like hours just like chatting in the McDonald's parking lot about stories, like just creating stories and characters and having fun with it. And it was a hobby at that time and just having fun with a friend and creating stuff. But over time, it just became like something that I became very serious and passionate about with the stories that I was creating in those conversations and wanted to do it. So I started putting my stuff out there on like Wattpad and other stuff like that on the internet, which isn't there anymore. But until I came across an opportunity with a hybrid publishing company a couple years ago that helped me with self-publishing my first book, or both the books I have out now. And yeah, that's more or less I'm at. That was 2 years ago. I published the first book in 2022 and the second book in 2023, and I'm working on another duology now.
Oh, wow. And yeah, the Empire of Strings is what he's written. Very cool. Shout out to who's the artist for your books?
I don't know their name. It's from the hybrid publishing company I worked with. They had an art team that came up with those. And
okay.
I was blown away by those covers. I'm happy to look at them.
What was the publisher's name?
Global Book Publishing.
Okay.
It's they're a hybrid one, so I have full control over everything. They provide some editorial and artistic people to work on stuff and just kind of guide me along the process. But beyond that, like marketing, everything like that, the actual publishing process, everything is still all done through me by myself.
Gotcha. That's cool. I hadn't heard of them before, so
I think they're
you've already taught me
relatively newer.
Cool. Cool.
Awesome. Keisha, I know you quite well, but please introduce yourselves to yourself.
So hi, I am Keisha Acuff. So let me see. I don't know. How do I talk about myself when we're not talking about weird stuff? I'm new to this, guys. Talking to myself is weird. So I actually, this one is never going to be published out in real life, but I just came out with this one. So it's actually a memoir, which y'all won't get to read until after I'm long gone. I have like 6 years worth that I'm going to be printing out. And it's very extensive into literally everything in my life. Because for the longest time, everybody told me, oh, you live such an interesting life. Write about it. And so I did, but you will never see that until I'm gone. Because no. There's a lot of stuff in there.
You're pulling a Mark Twain, huh?
And then, so I wrote this one back in, I think, 2016. But I sat on it for a really long time until I was threatened by all of my friends. All of the friends that threatened me, these are their books. So we'll shout out to them later. So they threatened me and they were like, Keisha, can you please publish it? Just publish it. And so they gave me a deadline and told me I had to, and I had no choice whether I liked it or not. There was actual threats made. So thanks, guys. But I didn't actually publish this until I think 2021. I want to say something along that. I don't honestly know. I have horrible memory.
It was definitely during the pandemic.
It was?
Yeah, or a little after, like, when things started to get back to normal.
That makes sense. So I actually have 7 total books that are out published for viewers to see and stuff. A lot of them are anthologies and stuff like that I've done with other people. This one is my only solo novel that's actually out and not just sitting on my shelf because I'm afraid to put it out. But I have 7 that you can find on like Amazon and other things. I only charge the price for making the book because I'm really bad about money, guys. So if you ever want to read a really awesome book about a murderer, you guys can find it there. I also write children's poetry, so I mean I've got a little bit of a differing style when it comes to writing. I'm actually getting ready to publish another book this year. It's going to be some of my artwork and some of my poetry, because I have written poetry pretty much my entire since I knew how to write. But I never did anything with it, and it's just sitting in Google Docs and written down on paper everywhere. So I figured I'd probably do something with it. So I started putting it together this year, guys. Hold me accountable because I will forget. So I also, like I said, I do, this is some of my art, but also my poetry. So this is just a little mock-up book that I put together just to see how things would print out. And of course I couldn't find all of my other books that I have because I have ADHD and who knows, they could be on Mars by now. But yeah, so I've just been pretty much writing since I could put my hand to paper, which I still have my original writing. I am dyslexic, by the way. I did not know that when I was younger. And so when I go through and I look at all my old writing, you cannot tell anything that I've actually written, it kind of looks like it's written in a different language. It's super fun to try to decode, though. So, and since then, I write every day.
Oh, wow. I do apologize. I forgot. Do you self-publish your stuff, or do you work with someone?
I've had several different ways. So, the solo was actually this one was self-published with help from friends. But some of them have actually gone through other companies. So if you look up my name, my solo book and a few other ones will pop up, but you have to dig a little further for the ones that were actually went through a company, because they have, more rights to it than I do. So those ones are a little bit more difficult to find, just because I'm either a co-author or it was an anthology of a lot of people and through a company. So it's just, you got to dig a little bit deeper for those ones. But yeah, technically both. However, I will say that self-publishing, the best thing. Because just in general, you have the, I guess, the rights over your own creativity. I feel like going through somebody else, like I said, they have taken the other books that I've written or been part of, like, since it's not published directly through me, it's through them. Like, the books have been taken down, put up, revised, done all these other things without my knowledge, without my anything. They just did it. And I'm not a fan of that. Mm-hmm. So self-publishing for me is just a way to be able to, I guess, kind of hone my own thing rather than having somebody else do it, because I don't like people.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I love people. I promise.
As the person who wrote a murder book.
At least I didn't kill the dog. Thanks. The little old lady, sorry, but the dog lives. So if you read it, just know that the dog lives. Okay. My editor wanted me to kill off the dog, and we kind of went rounds about it. And I was like, can we not kill the dog, please? I don't wanna. So it lives. You're welcome.
Awesome. And speaking of animal lovers, we have a great couple that write together. Please tell us who you guys are and what brought you guys together for writing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So again, my name is Edward, and
I'm Shannon. And we both write together under the pen name S&D Black.
Yeah. And since we're an author duo, we well, actually, if we want to back up to how this actually started, the Chimera Snare series is what we were working on together, and it was initially started by her. She had self-published back in 2015. Solo, and it had gone it didn't initially go anywhere just because it initially just wanted to tell the story, get it out there, and it wasn't until a couple of years later when we'd gotten together, we had already started our relationship at that point, and she began work on book 2, and after being initially just about 50 rough pages in, she started bouncing ideas off of me.
Yeah, like when I would find myself stuck, I just kind of like look to him and say like, hey, what do you think about this? Or what are your thoughts on that? And it just led me proposing the idea that we write together. And I was like, your brain's pretty cool. Like, we're dating and, I like you. So you want to write this book series with me?
And I agree.
And so fast forward, 8 years later, we're married. We have, the Chimera Snare. It's actually out into the world. We published it in August. We're working on book 2 now, and we have 10 cats.
Yep, and this is one of them. I want to say hi to Billy. He's right here.
Did you say 10?
So yeah, we write. It falls under the umbrella of dark fantasy.
Which I think at this point we've come to determine it's more or less like an umbrella term, because our read it's pretty multifaceted. So we've got some horror adjacent elements. We have, romance. There's comedic relief. We have our own magic system, which in book one you start to touch on, and then as we move like further into the series, you get to explore that a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we go full throttle with it. Yeah, and we have one dragon so far.
And like book one is kind of half in reality and half in these parallel worlds. And we always tell people if you're kind of new to fantasy or not quite sure or not really into high fantasy, it's a nice way to kind of dip your toes in and get a bit familiar. But this project, I had kind of started toying with like some of these characters back in high school originally, and I left all the all that stuff behind when I graduated, because I just went into working full time, and I had a pretty hefty commute, and I was always pretty sleep deprived. So like I would just listen to music, and then I just like pass out in the morning, like on the way to work on the Caltrain. And I had this really epic daydream to it's a band called Aglock, and the very first 2 tracks to their album, The Mantle, it actually like opened up like 2 of the main characters that I've been toying with, and like gave them this new depth that I never had. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I should just make this animation to these 2 songs, because it spans over what, like 15, 16 minutes?
About 17.
It's like a super like epic daydream. And I was content just like leaving it to be, just storyboarding it out, making an animation. Then I was like, you know what? I don't know how to animate. How am I going to do this? I was like, I know how to write. Maybe I could just write a book. And I did. And and then 2015 is when I first published the first iteration of Fragments. And it kind of just sat there because I was like, it's an achievement. I did it, but I wasn't quite happy with what I did. And it was self-published as well. I think you could probably still find like the original version on Amazon. I've tried to kind of pull the plug on all of that, like the prior versions, but I can't get that one to go away just yet.
They want to get rid of it.
You should try buying it and seeing if it just doesn't work, and then maybe it'll go away after that. But yeah.
Since then, since we had written book 2 and did all that together, after all that expanded the whole universe and just gave everything a lot more depth, we went back to Fragments and just redid the entire thing, gave it a full overhaul, and so it's like uniquely our creation as a team. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Like the characters are essentially the same. Some of the core concepts in it are the same, but how the story reads and how everything unfolds is vastly different. So yeah, it's very fresh from the original version. And I think one of the most important things too is we worked with for our cover artist, we worked with an illustrator, an artist in the UK, Adrian Baxter. And we know him because he does a lot of band artwork for like bands we know and listen to, and are also in part dedicated in part to the book. He actually designed this shirt as well.
Oh wow! Cool.
But he gave us our identity, and that was a really big thing.
And with you 2 working together, are you both? Do you both do the research together, or is one more prone to do the research more?
Like research for
your books,
as far as
do you guys do extensive research when it comes to finding out history for any of the characters, or
do you just let it organically flow?
Well, I think for the characters, I've developed some of them, and I would say they were a lot of them were underdeveloped when it was just me, and then coming in together, it's been we've just bolstered up the identity of a lot of them. So it's just become a lot of co-work.
Yeah, there's a good portion of it that comes essentially from within, just because I wouldn't really call it research that we conduct for our characters. It's just we just kind of roll with how the story unfolds and what kind of personalities make sense in the overall scope of things. And there's a lot of just random interactions and people that we've like run into just, you know, on any given time that kind of influences at times like what kind of personalities that we want to give our characters and where they would fit. There was one character in particular that it kind of clicked. We saw this like one, what would you call him? Like almost like a circus performer.
I know, that's exactly who I was thinking.
Yeah. We were in San Francisco one time and we were just rolling through Fisherman's Wharf, and there was a guy there. I'm blanking on his name, but his demeanor,
everything.
His whole personality, like as we were watching him, and we were like, that's Claymore. He's like one of our characters in our book, and so it just kind of like clicked, and I was like, I can't really explain it other than that. Like that's him.
Yeah.
And I think what really makes this helpful is that we both kind of parallel on a lot of things. Like we just kind of get it. So having that synergy naturally just really helps.
Yep, 100%.
And this question is for everyone. Do you guys stick with one topic or like one genre, or do you guys tend to spread yourselves around with different genres?
We could go first, I guess.
Sure.
Because we're only working on the one series currently, so it's dark fantasy or go home right now. But I would love, to maybe explore doing like more horror centric, because that's like I'm very interested in that genre. So I'd like to take a crack at it one day.
Yeah, same. I'd like to try my hand at something like that. Just something in like kind of like the darker elements. Because it's a really neat kind of grounded collective of genres that I think a lot of people can really relate to. It's not super far out there, but I think it's important, in writing to convey things that can be relatable. And so I think that could be really fun. Like after this series is done and over with.
Hollis, can you share a particular rewarding moment or achievement in your career as an indie author?
Yes, I definitely can. So, I think that this is like the peak. As soon as it happened, I said, okay, I don't think it's going to get any better than this. One of my former students went out and bought my book when it came out, and she read it. And she wrote a really honest review that was, on the one hand, really awesome, because she gave me a huge compliment when she said that the relationship between the two main characters, Alida and Vivian, was really deep and bittersweet and kind of devastating. And I was like, that is amazing. That somebody actually said that is awesome about my book. She hated the ending. She absolutely despised the ending of the book, which is fine. That's cool. But then she went and she drew fan art of the two characters, and she gave it to me, and I framed it and put it on the wall. Because, I don't know how well that will show up, of the two main characters, Alida and Vivian. And I was like, okay, I've got somebody who did fan art of my characters. I don't think it gets any better than this.
That is cool.
Okay, so what you're saying is I have a goal to reach now. Somebody do fan art about my book, please. I'm sad that I don't have that now. No,
I'm
so
sorry.
Side note, I really want to backtrack. You said art. So the first thing I noticed when you guys got on screen, S&E Black, I can't remember your names to save my life. But I noticed your shirt and I was like, I really like that design. And then you said it was made by the same person that did your book cover. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. Just because
I'm glad it resonated with you. It's really cool.
Now, like I know some of you don't know who who does the cover, but I'm just curious. Like, is the relationship with the artist that does your books important to you? or is that just something that you're
It's
happy to just?
it's certainly it's certainly important. And I with Adrian, I really had a good feeling about him just because like I followed his work for a while, and just the way that he spoke about art was really he's really concise and elegant in how he speaks to it, and really leaves it to the observer to just take from it what they will, and yeah, he's also a very big proponent of just creating practical art, and just in this age that a lot of people are turning to AI generated stuff. He's very adamantly against it, and we share that with him 100% as well. It's just a very very odd age that we're entering with this whole thing, and so yeah, it was very easy to really connect with him and jive on those really important levels. That was really important to us, and we wanted, at the very least for our cover, scoping our whole series, like we definitely wanted to give it his touch because it seemed just perfect. And like Shannon said earlier, what he really truly did for us was give us our identity, and it was that kind of perspective that we really needed just because we were writing this thing. It was hard to like really step outside and just to see like what this would look like to somebody else, just because on top of writing it, there's a lot of things in it that keep us awake at night, and so it's it's hard to escape those aspects of it. But to have an outsider looking in on it was really helpful, and yeah, it was.
And he uses a lot of symbolry too, and in the cover we have some we have a couple of social posts. I think we also did in the blog too that kind of goes more into detail of excuse me, what what each of the symbols mean. There we have in the center we have a blood key, and it's a pretty cryptic one that we leave for the readers to kind of discover what that means, and such. So being that he also works, I guess, has a good handle, I think, with like symbolry and stuff. It just everything just really fit, and I think it's nice to have that kind of cohesive thing with an author, with a like I guess artist and author kind of connection. So.
Very important, yeah. Very important.
We're gonna get cat, but.
Oh, Willow,
you're muted.
honey, you are okay. So I was actually going to backtrack to the genres that we currently write in, or plan to write in, or would like to try in general. I'd like to hear, Jeffrey, because I know you said that you do a lot more of the fantasy-based thing as well. Do you have any future plans to try any other genres?
Yeah, so the two books I've written are definitely fantasy, but the one I'm working on right now is science fiction, and I mean those are probably going to be my main two genres for most of my life, knowing myself. But I'm 100% open to trying any genre ever if I have an idea that fits that genre. Like,
I mean, it's always nice to stay with what you love rather than try to do something you don't resonate with. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to like I'd be willing to try any genre, but I don't want to do it if I don't have like a good idea for it. Like that's the main thing for me. As long as it's something that I'm passionate about, that I want to write and do, then I'll do it. No matter what the genre, I'll give it a shot.
Awesome.
Hollis, how about you?
I am very similar to Jeffrey in that sense of almost any genre. If I have a good idea for something that's in that genre, I'll go with it. I feel like I'm kind of the least qualified to talk about this one, in part because I only have the one book out, and it is, vampire thing. So I either pitch it as gothic, or if people don't know what that means, then I'll say dark fantasy. Some people still don't know what that means, so then I try something else. But that I never set out to be like a vampire writer. I just had this idea for this story, and so I rolled with it. Although I will say fantasy in general tends to be the wheelhouse that I keep coming back to in like my plays and such. One of the things I really like to do is the fantasy, fairy tale oriented type stuff. That's been a big thing for me. I'm about to try to write another play for a competition that's going to be a fairy tale retelling, that sort of thing. I keep finding a lot of meaning in those things. My next book is going to be somewhat like Keisha's mixed media thing of like a poem, a short story, a script, and a long academic introduction about the Little Red Riding Hood story and all the different facets of it in this mixed media thing. And, you know, I've also done other stuff like my cosplay Cinderella play that's going to premiere tonight at the Multiverse Fundraiser is more, it's fairy tale retelling, but it's set inside of the fandom culture today. So it definitely has a lot of like a rom-com issue-driven fandom thing going on. And then also with my work with the Biblical Drama Institute nonprofit, I try really hard to write plays like Heroic Women that are based on the Bible and don't suck stories.
That's always a good one.
So I am all over the place. It's basically just chasing things that interest me, things that I have ideas for. And sadly, sometimes my ideas take a really long time to get out. I've been working on a drama, just a straight up like contemporary drama piece that I've been working on for like 3 years. And there's a part of it I can't figure out. So it's just on the back burner until I figure it out. So that tends to be the thing for me.
So Hollis, I do want to sit and say one thing real quick. Your idea for your mixed media, it's my ADHD brain in all the right ways. I can't wait for that, honestly, because that like mixes all of my favorite things into like one thing. So you'll have to get that out as soon as possible. Okay, thank you.
I will work on it. I'll warn, like Vivian, the book I have already out, it is definitely not safe for kids. It is deep and it is dark. And the joke has been that like everything I've been working on lately in the creative world and also in the academic world are like not stuff you just bring up casually at dinner parties, because it is stuff. Little Red Riding Hood is a story that haunts me. It has haunted me increasingly as the years go on, when I realized what Little Red Riding Hood is actually about symbolically, which is again not something that is safe for family programming like this, but it has haunted me, and it is. I hope you like it. I'll also say go in knowing that this is not like, oh, light, fun reading that if you want to feel great, you need to read this and make you feel great about the world at large. It is dealing with some heavy stuff.
Hollis, I have to say that there was a point in my teenage years where R.L. Stine wasn't exactly kid friendly, but somehow I managed to read a couple of his books to my foster brother before going to bed. I don't know why.
Just because you like to be a rebel,
huh? We both loved that genre. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to read a 10-year-old child this story.
Okay, I know I did technically go over some of my genres when I was explaining my books. As you guys may have noticed, they are all over the place. Basically, anything that I can write down, I will. Mostly just because it's in my nature. I actually, let me see. Oh, I can't get to it right now. But on my Google Docs, I have so many different things written, because the second something pops into my head, I have even started writing my own textbooks, because some of you, I know Willow knows, and Hollis, you may know, textbooks are my favorite type of genre. That is a really weird genre, I know. I love to read textbooks, and I always wanted to write my own textbook. So I've actually started writing textbooks. I know nothing about nothing, guys. Or everything about nothing, I don't know. Um, so I have everything from textbooks written to poetry to, as I explained earlier, murder. I kind of, that one, I don't know. I think I would consider it a romance suspense murder novel. It's a little bit of something. It's also got vampires and cults. So, um, but yeah, so for my genres, I just basically, if anything pops into my head, I could quite literally be looking at something and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna write a book about this." Will you guys ever see 95% of them? No, because I feel like that's every writer. I am almost positive you all have some sort of writing that will never make it past pen and paper or typing it out, because you sit there and you're like, you put your whole soul into this thing, and then you're like, well, yep, that was nice for me. I hope nobody ever sees it. But yeah, so I think, Willow, we're gonna backtrack a little bit to
Yeah.
some rewarding times.
Jeffrey, you have a story for to share with us?
Yeah. So last year, I published the audiobook version of my first book, for the first Empire Strengths book, The Space Between Souls. But the reason that was a rewarding moment for me, well, there's two reasons, but one, I did it, me and a friend of mine, we did it all by ourselves. She did the narration for it, and I did all the editing for it and and everything, put it all together and all that stuff. But we did it with like no idea whatsoever how to make an audiobook, no real equipment for making an audiobook, a very unoptimized space for recording an audiobook, which was her closet. um, and but it was a lot of fun to put that together. When we got it done and I finally got all the editing done, like the initial editing for the initial recording and re-recording, I went to upload it to ACX to get it on Audible. And they have a whole different setup on there of like guidelines you have to follow for everything on there. And I had to essentially re-edit the whole thing. And so which wasn't fun, but it was a good learning experience. But when I got that published on there, or when I got that finished on ACX, I accidentally published it on ACX. Like I didn't go through and like set up a proper publishing date or anything. I had no idea what I was doing. I hit a button and then it was available to the world, and I freaked out. But it was a fun freak out, and it was and even though that wasn't good, it was a good memory. But the reason it was a rewarding moment is just because like doing that with the friend that I did that with, no matter what happens with my career or those books or anything like that, I'll always have that year and a half that we spent recording that together as like cherished memories. And so that's always something I'll look back on. And there was a lot of learning with that too that we've now implemented in that we're recording the second book now. And everything's better now. Like we have proper equipment, we have a recording space. You can't see it, but it's right behind me. And that was just the whole process of making that, even though it was stressful, was very fun and rewarding, just because I can look back and say we did that. Like that was just the two of us, nobody else, nothing. We did that. We put that together with nothing and no idea what we were doing, and it turned out, I mean, I'm not going to say it's good. That's not my place to say it, but I'm happy with it. So that was definitely very rewarding.
Relatable.
Willow, honey.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
S&E Black, you guys have a story as well to share, and I'd really like to hear that. And then we're gonna go and show some trailers for Keisha and Hollis's stories.
Awesome. I think for me, it's rather simple. Last year, when we released the book, we attended so many in-person events, and some were a hit and a miss. But for me, it's really just seeing that a reader has chosen your work and they are like carrying your book away from your station, and you're like, there goes my creation. Like, it's kind of nervous because you're like, I hope, they like it and it resonates for them. But it's just, for me, it gives me a profound sense of like just humbleness that they actually like chose to like dedicate their time, or use their time to explore what we've created. And it really like just gets me even more fuel to just continue on with the series that we're working on, because book 2 is underway. We're currently working on the teardown process and just going through editing. But yeah, it's and then we were at like a Krampus market recently with Streets Arts Alliance, and there was a pair of teenagers, and they both like gravitated like to our table. It was so amazing. And so yeah, and then I remember them, and they were like, they both purchased a copy of the book, and we have a little drawstring bag that we were giving away with it. And then we would see them throughout like the event, and then we just see our drawstring bag like backpack on them, and it's just like, I don't know, it just filled me with so much happiness.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Keisha. Okay, yeah, I'll tell your story, and then I'll show your
Okay.
video.
So mine is a really weird, rewarding moment. So as an author, I'm sure you all feel this way. You are kind of afraid that people are just being nice to you about your book. And like somebody will sit there and be like, oh my God, I loved your book. Thank you. Okay. So I love that people like my book. But my rewarding moment was the first bad review I got. I know that doesn't really make sense to a lot of people, but the first bad review I got, I was able to look at it and be like, somebody actually gave me 100% honest opinion, whether or not they thought it would make me sad, happy, etc. And so, mind you, it was only, I think they gave me like a 2 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5 or something. And I was like, I should be kind of sad about it right now. But when I sell my book and when I hand out my book to people, I tell them, I want to know your honest take on this. Like, I want to know what your thoughts are. And the second I got that honest review, my brain was like, somebody actually listened. And now I have something to work off of. Like, yeah, so in my books, I tend to talk in the way I would talk as a person. And that didn't resonate with them. Like, some people might resonate, some people not. It did not. And they expressed that through telling me in quite detail. And I was like, see, that's what I want, though. I know not everybody's gonna like what I put out, but I want them to be honest about it. I don't want them to worry about hurting my feelings. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. And so that was my most rewarding moment, is just getting that honest opinion from somebody rather than just the constant, oh my gosh, I love your book, you're so great. Because I feel like that's not as genuine as somebody that's willing to actually give you the honest opinion. So, yeah, that's kind of mine.
Oh, wow. All right. So I'm going to start. I'm going to show the trailer for Vivian.
That you talked with the villagers, didn't you? You heard about the garlic and the moving boundary? And the shadow? Is that what they call me? I am the queen of the wolves that eat their livestock. I feed off the villagers.
And here's Keisha's book. All right, just to remind everyone what we're doing here, we are raising money for the multiverse. We are the multiverse fundraiser. We're raising money for the comic books for kids. We are at $375 US dollars, because yesterday I was trying to update everyone on the tally in Canadian funds. So we got about 10 minutes left. We do have some comments in the from the chat. Full creative control is one of the best things about self-publishing. And since you've all written fantasy, we've been discussing on other panels about how fantasy has room for allegories and safe space away from baggage of the real world. Is that one of the draws?
Honestly,
that's for everyone.
Yeah. Possibly. Oh, hi.
Hey guys.
So sorry, I
Hi,
didn't mean to cut you guys off.
So I just wanted to, you know, I had shared with Hollis I'd see him in 45 minutes, because if everybody knows that if I stayed on this panel, I'd be so immersed in all you guys and what you're doing that neither Willow nor Hollis would have a chance to say a word, and I didn't want to do that to them. The videos I just saw were spectacular. The creations, Jeffrey, you know, that's neat. Black, you guys are all freaking talented, and I come from a position of awareness here, because you may know that a lot of the indie authors and artists come to me. We've been a recipient for many of them, several of which actually have been on the Multiverse fundraiser and heard about us. And so they send us a lot of times materials for us either to get to the kiddos in hospitals or the military. So a couple things I wanted to suggest and share with you. If you ever have excess copies laying around, they don't have to be mint. If they're off center, if they're slightly torn, who cares, right? Send it to us, and we will get you a donation receipt and share the story back. Just another, and we will give you some social media shout out. Just our ways. We are huge supporters of this whole indie movement, and we've given a lot of people some awareness. Keisha, to your point, I did get a chance to review a comic once, and I thought the comic was great, and the ending was horrific. I mean, absolutely horrific. And it was someone who was actually on one of these panels at one point and really was a friend. And I said, great story, such a horrible ending that I wouldn't want to show it to my best, even my worst friend. But here is what I didn't like. Here is why I didn't like it. Here is how I would perceive children would read it. And here is my suggestion. If you want to change it, and I'm not suggesting you do, it's your creation, how you might want to change it to make it more accessible. That by no means means that I am the end all be all on critics in evaluating or making a final determination. But to your point, it's feedback. And I think as an indie artist and creator, any feedback is good. And so, I mean, we're still great friends. And he actually called me the next time he created something and said, I took into consideration what you said, and I think you'll like the ending of this one. Guess what? It was substantially better. We all, no matter what age you are, me, you guys, we all go through a learning process in our creativity. So your point was really well taken.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mark. And what you do here, I appreciate every one of you for joining us today. Well, we got about 5 minutes left. Please finish your thought there about, I'm so sorry, about the fantasy and, well, here, I'll really, oh. Sorry. I'm really bad today. I'm having a giant brain fart.
It's okay, Willow.
So yeah, just to remind you guys of the question, since you've all written in fantasy, we've been discussing on all panels about how fantasy has room for allegories and safe space away from baggage and the real world. Is that one of the draws?
So for me, it's technically a way to get it out. So some of my writing has actually been not so much to get away from reality, but to get reality out, if that makes sense. Like, it's not in here anymore, because I know some of the things that I've written about are actual, like, yes, I may have written a book about a vampire cult and stuff, but it has real life things that I just wanted to get out. So I actually do not reread any of my books because I don't want to go back to that space. It's like, get that out of there, thanks. So I don't know. How about you guys?
I think for us as well, writing fragments together really gave us a chance to really pour out a lot of ourselves into it as well, on a personal level. And so, yeah, I think that's that's a really important thing to remember. It's like why, I think we as authors write in the first place is to get something out of ourselves. It's a form of expression. It's an outlet, much like any other art form. So I don't think it's necessarily restricted to just writing in the fantasy genre. I think writing in any genre affords authors to do that, as well as readers too. Like when they dig into the story and they absorb it, the levels of how any given book can resonate with somebody. It's that's the kind of the beauty of it. It's and yeah, if you reach your readers, then that's obviously the thing that we want to achieve, and while also keeping in mind that not every reader is going to be your reader, and that's perfectly fine. So that's the big important thing to just remember, is that to just not lose sight of why we write in the first place. Aside from all the the business aspects of things and all that junk, it's what it really comes down to is just this outlet that we afforded ourselves.
Awesome. All right, so we got a couple of minutes left before the end of this panel. Hollis, please let us know where we can find you on social media.
My Facebook is the best place to do that. Facebook.com/HollisterWriter. You can see all the updates on anything I'm doing there. And thanks again for having me on this panel.
No problem. Jeffrey, where can we find you on social media? Or where can we find your books?
Literally, I go exactly what Hollis said. Facebook is the best place to find me. Facebook.com/author Jeffrey Lee is my Facebook page. I'm not great at keeping it updated, but that's the one I do keep updated.
Okay.
And I'm also on Instagram too, but I couldn't even tell you the last time I posted anything on there. I'm bad about it. Amazon is the primary place for my books. Both of them are on there in all formats, including audiobooks. It's all through Amazon.
Awesome. Keisha.
So just Google my name, guys. I'm literally everywhere. So I do want to we'll do you guys real quick, and then I do want to go real quick, just show a couple of the indie authors I have on the way out. So go ahead, S&E, and then we'll come back to me. Or you guys share too.
Yeah, social-wise, we're on all the normal ones, Facebook and Instagram. We have a dedicated page for the series, The Chimera Snare, that we both manage. So if you just look for The Chimera Snare on Facebook, you can find us there. Instagram, I think the handle is right there at The Chimera Snare. That's both of us. And we have our personal author profiles as well on Facebook. There's a website also for the series, and there you can sign up for our newsletter if you're so inclined. We promise not to spam anybody. You'll get like maybe one or two a month from us.
We do periodic giveaways as well, because we sponsor rotating animal rescues for the month. So we both personally purchase an art print, which the proceeds go to support the animal charity of the month, and we raffle them off. So that's another good reason to join the newsletter.
And you can find our books as well. There's a link through our website also to Clay Publishing, which is our own publishing company. And that's where you'll find these specific editions of our books there that you can't find just anywhere.
The website will also tell you where we're shelved, because we really like to support, your local libraries, your local, indie bookstores, and Amazon is a necessary evil, so we are there too.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Keisha.
So I was just gonna give a shout out to all these beautiful people. Just look at the thingies, and then we gotta go because we are at the top of the hour. So I just wanted to shout out all these indie authors. So y'all have a good day.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having
No
us.
problem. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you
so
guys.
Those of you who are wondering where you can donate donate to the Multiverse fundraiser on our Facebook page. You can also find Mark at comicbooksforkids.org. So please donate with your heart. I appreciate all of you for being here, and I hope you guys have a great day. And please, the next panel's probably just got started, so please go to the next panel, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
The Multiverse Fundraiser is partnering with Comic Books for Kids to raise money for their cause. Their mission is to provide comic books to children in hospitals and cancer centers across the United States, Canada, and the UK. We believe in the importance of providing stories that promote hope and bravery to kids who are facing things that are scarier than any supervillain. And we truly believe in this cause. To donate, you can either go to our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/The Multiverse Fundraiser or directly to comicbooksforkids.org.
The Multiverse Fundraiser would like to thank our sponsors: Earth Dog Studios, Clobberin Comics, The Art of Brian Rodman, Studio Moonfall, Elusive Comics, and of course, the Phoenix Sisters Entertainment Network for hosting this event. Learn how to support these businesses on the MVFR website.